Everybody seems to be looking over this one player, but the numbers don't lie. He's a per minute beast and one trade deadline move away from becoming a league winner. What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you got absolutely fisted by injuries this week, rest days, your opponent randomly turning into the 2017 Warriors, yeah, you're in the right place, my friend. Today we're breaking down the best possible no-doubters, 100% guaranteed best waiver wire ads that you need to be targeting right now. Guys that can help you immediately, plus a few names that could stick with you the rest of the season. We're going to figure out who's legit or who's just a little box score strip tease, or who you should be running, sprinting to your waiver wire to add right now before your league mates wake up and realize they screwed up. Let's get it, boy. Okay, first up, we're going to go with Jalen Smith. And no, this isn't the same Jalen Smith linked to all those college betting scandals. Saw people talking about that today. Like, if you just take a second to research that, you could find that out pretty quick. But now the elephant in the room with Jalen and the whole main thing surrounding this guy's potentially huge value is Vooch actually does get moved on from the Chicago Bulls at the trade deadline. Now, Vooch should have been moved at least 2 years ago. So how much can we really trust the Bulls management? About as much as you can trust my Instagram algorithm to not just be a bunch of thirst traps. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but even still, in the limited minutes or the spot starts, Jalen Smith is a per minute beast with averages of 10.6 points, 8.6 boards, 1 assist, 1.2 blocks in the last 2 weeks with only 22 minutes per night. And that was juiced up by a 36-minute banger, really bumping up that average. Looking at his game logs, anytime that he is upwards of 22 minutes per night, you can practically pencil him in for a double-double with some blocks and a couple threes. He's okay from the line for a big at 76%, and the field goal percentage can definitely be rough at times for that, so he's definitely more suited for a punt field goal percentage build if you're in a category league. But I like the ability of him to dominate the big man stats, and again, if Vooch does get moved with Collins still out, still hurt, and no one behind him, we could see Smith at 30 plus minutes per night as a guy to close out the year, and he'll be a must roster, must start, legit league winner type guy if that happens. Now, watch Chicago actually go and do the right thing and ship out Vooch, but bring back some middling center that just cucks both him and Smith's value the rest of the year. Like, looking at Jalen Smith's stat line from tonight, ooh, that's what I'm talking about, baby. Okay, we'll keep going with Brandon Williams from the Dallas Mavericks. Now, it looks like Williams is back in the mix for an ad for 12-team leagues. And what a roller coaster of a year it's been so far for the fourth-year guard. It looked like he had the starting role locked down in November, only to lose it to Nembhard in December. But with Flag and AD out, the Mavs are starved for any sort of playmaker, any sort of guy that has juice. And Williams does have a bunch of different avenues to get himself there and make himself useful for this Dallas Mavericks squad. He was a solid start earlier in the year when he was getting the minutes and usage, and it looks like he's back to that, at least for the short term. The last 2 games have been real nice. Prefer to see some more assists from the guard, but that's understandable without Flag or AD. There's going to be no gimme assists going around that Dallas Mavericks squad at all. I don't have a ton of confidence in the long-term value of Williams right now, but we can add him, we can start him, and we can reevaluate him when Flag is back in the rotation. Man, remember when people thought D'Angelo Russell was going to be a big part of this team, be a big part of this roster, and be useful for fantasy? That seems like a lifetime ago now. Okay, now we're going to go over a guy that I actually really like and who absolutely lit the ball on fire tonight, dropping a career-high 39 points. That's Jalen Tyson from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So besides being absolutely unconscious from deep tonight, he's been another guy that has been highlighted on this channel a couple of times. Someone who was having a really good season to start the year. It wasn't too long ago, and then he seemingly fell out of the rotation, lost his shot, and had a real rough stretch of basketball in the time being. And I imagine he was dropped in a lot of leagues because of it. But with the Sam Merrill injury and the Garland injury, Cleveland will need him to step up, and his minutes should inch closer to that 30-plus minute mark per night. And you know he is a guy who can score. He can hit some threes both at a high clip, bring down boards, and go after it on the defensive end. Tonight was the perfect example of that. He's a real solid contributor for 12-team category leagues, and he has a nice floor for points league teams as well. I don't know the extent of either injury to Merrill or Garland. The NBA is just so coy with that stuff sometimes. It is so annoying. I just wish they'd come out and tell you what they know, tell you some sort of time frame. And I know it can differ with each different player and how they respond to treatment. It just feels like they're so vague on what they do, and it just really can be annoying from a fantasy standpoint. And I know, before all you guys get your panties up in a bunch, they don't give a shit about fantasy basketball. I get it. But if Tyson was dropped in your league, and I imagine he was again in a lot of leagues, I would go scoop him up right now, especially after he dropped his nuts tonight with that game, with that shot. You need to go at him while he's playing this well, and while he's going to get all this usage with those guys out. We can reevaluate when they return into the rotation, and if he falls off again, if he loses his shot, we can drop him and add him from somebody else in the future. Okay, and for the last guy here, I'm going to keep it fairly short because I do imagine he's already scooped up in any super competitive league, and that's Cam Spencer from the Memphis Grizzlies. So with Morant seemingly on his way out from Memphis, Spencer is like the last man standing there, the last point guard standing in that rotation. He has no trouble facilitating, as always. You can see with his game logs, he can stuff it in many different ways. You'd like to see him shoot a bit more, but as long as Memphis doesn't get another guard back in the Morant deal, when or if they actually deal him, Spencer is set up pretty nice to close out the year, even when Ty Jerome does, or if he does return from his injury later on. If you need assists, Spencer is definitely your guy, especially since he has nice category coverage as well. Okay, now we're going to go over the guys that have been the most added from Yahoo leagues over the last 2 days. So first up, we had Bryce Sensabaugh. Now I talked about Bryce in last week's video, and he definitely shoved his nuts down my throat, dropping 70 points in 2 games. Empty stats otherwise, but who cares when he's scoring like this? He can fit on anyone's squad, no matter the league. Like I said last week, you have to keep watching with this Utah team because they're so unpredictable to see what the minutes and the usage will be like going forward. But we got to add him in the meantime, and we maybe will regret it in a week or two. But for now, add him and just see where it goes. Next up, we had the Jockstrap, and he's a solid add if you do need some cheap boards, threes from the center position, and usually a decent scoring output. The upside is for sure limited, as he'll barely get you any assists, steals, or blocks, but he has the opportunity, minutes, and some usage, which can't be said for a lot of the guys on the waiver wire right now. Jalen Williams was another guy that's been added a lot in the last couple days, so I assume he was just getting added for that 1 game stream, or at least I hope that was the reason. There's nothing really to see here besides when the Thunder are really short-handed, you can plug him in and hope for some big man stats. We'll keep going with Precious Achiuwa. Now, we had a monster game on Wednesday, and I guess that's where a lot of people got horny with his roster rate almost jumping 10%. Sponis is expected back tonight on Friday, so that game that Precious had will most likely go down of his best of the season. Unless we're streaming for some boards and some blocks, we don't really need to add him here. Maybe Sacramento does move a bunch of guys at the deadline, and maybe he gets bumped back up closer to a 30-minute per night role, but otherwise it's probably going to be a lot of empty lines that we're going to regret starting if we did. So next up, we had the Depressed Penis, as Josh Lloyd would say, one of the better nicknames going on in the NBA, at least from my opinion, coming from me as I have the maturity of a 12-year-old. But besides that, I don't really mind Bay's fantasy game, unlike Mr. Lloyd. Now, I hate his real life game, there's no arguing that, but that doesn't really matter for fantasy for what we care about. When Bay gets 30 plus minutes per night, he just needs to be rostered in 12-team leagues. Simple as that. We'll keep going with Yves Missi. Now, he did randomly pull down a double-double in this last game, and people have went out and added him. I'm hoping it's because New Orleans has 2 games left in this week on Friday and Sunday, so people are just streaming for a bump in man games to try and close out the matchup on a positive note. Otherwise, we really don't need to be doing this. He can get some boards and some blocks, but that's about it. Unless something happens to Queen, we can ignore Yves for the time being. Justin Champagny, so he was starting last week with CJ gone and George still hurt, but with George back, he's back to the second unit. I just don't think he'll have enough juice to warrant our attention. He was even barely a borderline ad when George was out, and when he was starting, getting close to 30 minutes plus per night, and I just don't think that'll be the case going forward. Okay, so here's the big one, Colin Murray Boyles. So I said last week when I thought Pirtle was returning that we didn't need to chase CMB. Well, I was completely wrong, so that's on me. Boyles has been great, and nothing positive has been said about Pirtle. CMB is making the most of his opportunity with his motor on the defensive end. Toronto wants that athleticism on the court, and we should want CMB in our lineups. Go get that man. Yegor Doyman, so I'm going to talk about him a lot in the recap, so I won't talk about him here. Make sure you go check out the recap if you want to hear about him. And the last one, Bones Highland. So he's not been a bad stream at all with Edwards out. I don't think Ant's injury is anything serious, as they're saying it's regular foot maintenance, whatever the hell that means. Man, the NBA is just getting so soft now. It's pretty lame. But Highland can score, he can hit the three, he can facilitate. So play him if that's what you're looking for, while Edwards remains on the bench. Okay, now let's get into a group of guys that I think have a lot of stash potential. Now, either they're going to get a potentially bump in value either the trade deadline, or they've been injured for a majority of the year and they'll potentially be back later on in the second half of the season as we inch towards fantasy basketball playoffs. So these are the guys that you're going to have to depend on your league if you have an open IL spot, if you have an open bench spot, where you can get proactive, add these guys now in case they get moved or a spot opens up on their team and they get a massive bump in usage opportunity. So it's time to be proactive now as we get closer and closer to the NBA trade deadline. One thing to note though, some of these guys are purely luxury stashes where you're just absolutely sitting pretty locked into a playoff spot. If you're someone that's on the verge of missing playoff spot, or you're fighting tooth and nail to get into the playoffs, these may not be the best guys for you, because you want guys that are giving you production now, helping you win weeks now, just to make it to the dance. Okay, first up, we have the former Golden State prodigy, Jonathan Kuminga. Now, with Steve Kerr and the Warriors practically devaluing their former lottery pick to pretty much nothing, which is just absolutely stupid, by the way. Almost as stupid as them drafting Kuminga in the first place over Franz Wagner and Alfred Şengün. I know hindsight is 2020, but man, it just sucks now looking back at it. So yes, Kuminga's value is at an all-time low, and he is demanding a trade now, which is quite funny in himself because he hasn't really been playing that good a ball this year to really be in a position to demand to get out of there. It's a real messy situation on both ends. I don't know if Kuminga will ever realize his full potential, and for fantasy, he just needs consistent volume. He needs consistent playing time, and he might get there depending where he lands. Don't forget, he is still only 23 years old, and he was just never a good fit in that Golden State offense. I wouldn't be so quick to write him off just yet. Next up, we're going to go with Day'Ron Sharpe off the Brooklyn Nets. Now, a good stash candidate. It's also one that can be useful for you right now, regardless if their situation changes in the future or not. So that's kind of exactly what Sharpe is. He feasted when Claxton was out, and there have been rumors and trades linking Claxton to possible other teams. And if he gets moved, Sharpe would step right back into that fat role that he was juicing with earlier in the year, and he'd be like a must roster type guy to close out the fantasy basketball season on that tanking Nets team. We'll keep going with Malik Monk from the Sacramento Kings. Now, that Sacramento team build is one of the worst in recent memory, in my opinion. I honestly have no idea what the hell they were doing. I don't know if they knew what the hell they were doing, but Monk has been the odd man out more often than not on that squad. But we all do know how capable of a scorer he is when he gets full run. So it definitely depends where he lands, if he's going to be a starter, if he's going to be like the first guy off the bench, a six-man thing where he's going to be locked into a 25 plus minute role per night. He can definitely be helpful for 12 league teams. I think there is a potential Sacramento could also ship out a couple other guys, so even if he doesn't move, he might get a bump staying put. Okay, and for this next one, I'm just going to group all the Utah guys together, because honestly, I have no idea which one out of Kyle Filipowski, Ace Bailey, Sensabaugh, Walter Clayton Jr., Isaiah Collier is going to get that massive bump in silly season like we've seen in years past from them. So all of these guys are silly season names, but for sure there will be at least, I think, one of them or probably two of them that will be solid performers down the stretch for fantasy basketball. Which one will that be? I honestly have no idea. I'm hopeful for Filipowski, but can anyone say that with a speck of confidence? Keep your eye out for some of these guys as we inch toward the end of the year, because I think at least a couple of them, or at least one for sure, is going to be a real good performer for 12-team leagues, especially in the fantasy basketball playoffs. Okay, and last up, we're going to go with a guy that's been out the entire year, and that's going to be Ty Jerome off the Memphis Grizzlies. So for some reason, it looks like he did travel with the team for the Europe game over in Germany, so I'm not sure if that actually means that he's getting close to playing, or if that was a positive update update, or you just want to go chase some European tail with the boys. Ja Morant is almost certainly going to get traded now from the Grizzlies unless something weird does happen. So that's going to open up a point guard spot, which Cam Spencer has been filling in admirably in Morant's absences throughout the year. However, Memphis did go out and get Jerome in the offseason, signing him to a 3-year deal for $27 million. And I do believe they'll want to see what they have, what they paid for, and they should give him ample opportunity in the second half of the year if he can just get back healthy and stay healthy. That Memphis Grizzlies squad. All right, you guys know I always lie when I say it's the last guy. I always throw some little bonus tidbits in there to juice those nips. So these next two are just going to be purely a luxury stash. Like, you have to be dead set on playoffs first in your league. You have a couple open IL spots. You're just chilling right now, and that's going to be Jason Tatum and DeJounte Murray. Okay, so first up with Tatum, it does look like he's progressing well in his recovery, that he potentially is ahead of his timeline because he is a dog. Now, the thing is with Boston, I think they have been a lot better than most people expected coming into the year. So they have no reason, no incentive to rush Tatum back till he's fully healthy, because it does look like Boston's going to make the playoffs without him. And if they do, they want him fully healthy, fully ready to go for playoffs. But I think there could be a decent chance that he is back for the fantasy basketball playoffs to give him a little bit of run, get his legs under him before they go into the actual NBA playoffs. So he is probably the top luxury stash. But again, you have to be so chilling right now. You have to have an open IL spot and just no worries, because there is a pretty big chance that he's not playing for fantasy basketball wise at all. And then for DeJounte Murray, heading into the year, I definitely did think he would be back around New Year's. He said that around September, so that kind of was his own words. He was putting that target date for him. But then I think the Pelicans just started losing every game possible. And the more and more that they lost, the more and more that it probably didn't incentivize DeJounte Murray to push himself to get back on the court. There was an update recently ago that said that he hasn't even really been with the team yet. It was kind of a vague update, but that they're going to reassess him in a month. And that there's no guarantee that he will return to the court this year. I do think, though, that he wants to play. He'll want to play. So I think there is some chance that we actually do see him out on the court. So we are going to know. I think that update was a couple weeks ago. We'll probably know in the next few weeks. But we all know how good DeJounte Murray is when he's healthy. I know he is coming back from a massive injury. But if he's going to play, I do think his timetable is before Tatum's. But if I was a betting man, and I am a betting man, I'd say it's way more likely Tatum plays than Murray.
It's time for Number to Sports Weekly Waiver Wire Recap. Is he going to hit himself in the not-so-torpedo of beer? Let's find out if he fucked you over last week with his weekly recommendations.
All right, it's recap time, baby. You guys gotta let me know down below if you still enjoy the recaps, doing it each week, or if you just ignore it and could really care less. Let me know in the comments down below. We'll see if we'll continue going with this segment in our weekly waiver wire videos. But first up, we had Yegor Doyman. Now, we had one bad game, sat out the other, playing as I'm recording this, but he drained 5 threes with 17 points, 5 assists, a steal, and a block, and 60% from the floor for the rookie. I truly do believe that he will get better as the season goes on. That's what usually happens with rookie point guards, and I do like his fantasy potential. Bilal Coulibaly is the next guy up, and he's just another guy who's just really struggled to stay healthy, and it does suck. With his stock contributions and decent category coverage, I did like him for 9-cat. I don't think he's necessarily a must-hold by any means with his recent injury. Who knows how long he's going to be out, especially if you're fighting for a playoff spot and you just can't burn a roster spot with a guy who's not giving you like star level production. Anthony Melton was the next guy up, and he's had 2 good games with one kind of clunker besides a few stock contributions. His minutes haven't picked up yet. One game was a blowout though. The skill set is definitely there for 12-team leagues, even in 25 minutes per night, and if he ever does get closer to 30, I definitely believe that he'll easily be a top 100 player to close out the year. And last up, we had Trey Johnson, and the guy just continues to shoot well. I think the Wizards are going to give him every opportunity to showcase himself to close out the year. His ceiling could be very high if he propels to the 30-minute mark per night. Trey can hit the 3, he can score, he's great from the line, he's decent from the field, and you'll sprinkle in all the counting stats with close to a steal per game. So his category coverage is very nice for 9-cat, and he gives you that baseline floor for points leagues. So I don't know, I don't think that deserves a punishment, even though I haven't done one in so long. It feels like, my balls are getting antsy. So we'll decide. Normally, I'm not doing one, but since it's been a long time, I might give you guys a little sneak peek. All right, boys, but I think that's it for this video. I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure you like it, hype it, sub it if you haven't. And make sure you check out my prior buy low and sell high videos as they're still relevant and they could really give you some useful information to close out your season strong. As always, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. And have a good rest of your weekend, week, day, night, wherever you are. And I'll see you guys real soon.